One of the cool things about the Rotoworld Draft Guide is there are actual drafts in there. These guys are doing the work with the mock draft all the way throughout the year with different formats, different styles, different categories, including dynasty draft. If you're doing this for the long haul and trying to get the young players who think you could count on for 10, 15 years from now, that's what these guys have done as well. So let's take a look at your first round of the dynasty mock draft. It's in the draft guide right now for 2020. And Drew, you say Ronald Acuna is the no doubt slam dunk number one. Drew?
Yeah, I made the argument for Ronald Acuna Jr. as the number one overall pick in a standard redraft league. And I don't think the argument really even needs to be made in a dynasty format. It's obvious given the age. He's 22 years old, just turned 22 years old in December. Christian Yelich is 6 years older at age 28. Mike Trout's a couple months older than Yelich. Acuna has averaged 41 home runs, 100 RBIs, 32 stolen bases, and 124 runs scored for every 162 games played so far in his young career. It's scary to think that he might somehow get even better.
I think he will.
Might join the 40-40 club, 40 homers, 40 stolen bases. That's what Jose Canseco, Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Alfonso Soriano. It could be Acuna this year.
Yep. Chris, tell me you're going to disagree with Drew.
I am not going to disagree with Drew. But I will say this, if there's anybody who could catch up to him, it might be Fernando Tatis Jr., just because he's that similar five-tool guy. I could actually see him hitting for a higher average than Acuna does, just because I think there's a little bit less swing and miss in his game, and he just makes so much hard contact to all parts of the field, but doesn't quite have the same power and the same speed. So because of the 5 categories that Acuna is going to help you with, because he's already hitting at that elite fantasy level, he has to be that first pick. If you're starting a dynasty league over again, Ronald Acuna has to be 1-1.
I completely agree. And I think there could be room for growth with Acuna as he gets more experience, gets a better approach. I think we could regularly count on the batting average.
It's just crazy to think.
Yeah. He's already number one. Yeah. He'll be number 1 and number 2 if he continues to grow at this rate. So, okay, slam dunk number 1, Ronald Acuna Jr. He's going to be good for a long time to come. Here's the second round of the mock draft that you guys put up in the draft guide as well. And, Chris, I'd like to get your thoughts on some of these younger guys because you follow the prospects just as well as anyone out there. Vlad Guerrero Jr., you got Alvarez, you got Bo Bichette in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Guerrero Jr. actually ended up going in the first round, which was a little bit of a surprise, but you get it. He is a guy who can just... The offensive potential, I know the numbers weren't quite there, but I think it's worth pointing out that he had some pretty bad luck. There was a lot of line drives that were getting caught. I seem to see something on Twitter every day about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting a line drive that nearly killed an infielder, but the infielder caught it. And then you've got guys like Bo Bichette and Yordan Alvarez who really improved their stock. There were guys who got drafted last year in our mock draft, and for good reason. But after doing what they did, their stock improved so much. Bo Bichette could be a fantasy superstar if the steals translate. Another guy who doesn't have elite speed but reads pitchers so well and is such an aggressive baseball player that I think he's going to have a lot of attempts as long as they allow him to do so. Yordan Alvarez is just a freak. And the fact that he's going to probably be a DH is going to maybe hurt him down the line, probably getting that utility play rather than outfield. But the offensive potential is so palpable, and we saw what he can already do.
And we talk about passing the eye test. Bo Bichette, man, that dude's a gamer.
He's an athlete.
Yeah, he's just an aggressive baseball player. Is just a great way to put it.
So those are some of the hitters for a dynasty, which maybe are easier to project down the line. But how about some of the pitchers here too? That's round 2. You know, round 1 we also had Walker Buehler, we had Jack Flaherty. These are. Oh, they're in round 2 here too. So Drew, those players and projecting those guys into the future, what do you got?
Yeah, you saw Garrett Cole there in the first round, 11th overall. Jacob DeGrom was the second starter off the board at 13th overall. But yeah, Walker Buehler and Jack Flaherty are the new rising fantasy aces, I think. Flaherty went 23rd, which is interesting. Buehler went 18th, but Flaherty's actually going 23rd. Overall right now in the standard Yahoo redraft league. So that might be a really good value on him in a dynasty format. Sometimes it's safer just to pick hitters in a dynasty format than pitchers. But you look at Flaherty entering his age 24 season. He'll play this entire year at age 24. Had a 0.93 ERA with 130 strikeouts over his final 106 and a third regular season innings last year. Like an amazing run, like one of the best runs we've seen in modern baseball history. And he's so young. He's got 3 really good pitches and great control of all of them. And pitches in Busch Stadium, which is one of the more pitcher-friendly parks in the majors.
I mean, I think Buehler and Flaherty are head and shoulders above the rest of the young emerging pitchers, at least right now.
Yep.
So how tricky is that, though? Because it does seem like the hitters, Acuna, you feel like outside of a freak injury, he'll be the guy, and he'll play 150 games every year. You just don't know that with these pitchers.
Yeah, it's so tricky in a dynasty format. You understand why pitchers get pushed down the board a bit, just because bats are safer.
Sure.
Pitchers get injured, and it can change the whole course of their career. So that's why we're seeing these pitchers being selected later, especially veteran pitchers in their mid to late 30s. I mean, just going by this draft here, Max Scherzer, for instance, was selected number 36 overall. Wow. It took until the start of the 5th round when Drew took Justin Verlander 49th overall. So, dynasty leagues, it's easy to focus so much on the future, 3 or 4 years down the road. But if you want to play to win this year, you got a great value in Justin Verlander, and Matthew got a great value in Max Scherzer.
Absolutely.
So there's value to be found in those later rounds.
Yeah, there's a strategy to building your team for 2020 while everyone else is trying to get prospects.
Yeah. Life is short.
I'll win and then I'll quit the league after year 1.
Right, we got to lock you in for year 5 there. Sample of what? David Ortiz for years and years.
Absolutely.
It was
Nelson Cruz this year, probably.
Nelson Cruz, yeah.
Absolutely. And then
Edwin Encarnacion.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing with taking that strategy is if your team doesn't do too well, those guys have plenty of trade value in the later in the year to guys, and your prospects are there to get traded for.
Trying to build a dynasty in fantasy baseball. It's easy if you get the draft guide, rotoworld.com/MLB draft guide.